Hi, I'm David Lee, and we're What's Cooking at Shell Point. And today I'm here with
Ruth Duber, and we're kind of getting back to our normal shows now after a wonderful time with Fine Mark Bank and with you and Anna Smith, who did a wonderful celebration of my 200th show. But now, after all that wonderful stuff, we're going to get back to our usual shows, and David's got a great one today. What are you doing?
well, it's great because you love lamb chops.
Oh, I love lamb
right?
chops.
And you said, would you cook lamb chops? Kind of a couple of your friends.
Yeah,
on the
okay.
show. The first thing I want to say about lamb chops is these are not your grandmother's lamb chops.
No, okay.
I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, I didn't care for lamb chops at all because they were, I call it gamey tasting.
Yeah, well, I know in service, my husband was in World War II, and what they got was actually mutton.
Oh,
And
okay.
has a real strong flavor. They didn't do the fine chops at that point.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty bad. So it took me a while to get worn used to it. So
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I never did get my dad tasted them and loved them until he
Okay.
realized what it was.
Okay.
So I think if you're a World War II person,
That makes
lamb
a
chops
difference.
are out.
That's right.
So anyway, what I really want to start with, particularly when I cook with everything, I've mentioned it before, is one of the most important things I would not want to be without is my thermometer. And I brought several different kinds here today. And I forgot my most favorite one, but in fact I stopped by my neighbor's house and I said, June, I want to borrow your thermometers. These happen to be hers, and these are the most inexpensive ones. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, and this one happens to be a Rus. And once again, these are fine. Having said that, though, they have a tendency to get out of calibration by putting them in the drawers and that. And so I'll show you in another show I want to do on gadgets. But the one thing I remember from chemistry class, one of the only things, is that water boils at a temperature of 212 degrees. So we just tested Rus a little bit earlier, and hers reads 180 when it's 212. So we didn't do it today. I'll come back and do it sometime. But right on the bottom of each one of these is a little nut. And all you got to do is adjust it until it gets to 212. So anyway, these are wonderful. They're fine and will work every day. I forgot one of my super duper ones, but Ruth's son bought her a very good digital one. And I love it for two reasons. Number one, it's a little more expensive, but it's always accurate, never fails. And the other thing I love about this one is, if you can read it, it's got all the temperatures on here of different meats you're going to cook. I happen to have this one on the side of my refrigerator.
That's much easier to read.
Yeah. You can pick these up anywhere. I even use this when I'm cooking fish because it's so hard to tell when they're done. The old school was cook them till it's flaky. It's overdone then. So at any rate, you can use this with everything. Once again, it's a gadget I would not want to live without. So we're going to use that today. And so we're going to cook lamb chops. And we got a couple of them right here. And people put a lot of seasoning on them. Oftentimes, I don't put any seasoning on them, just a little pepper. And first of all, we need to pat them dry. And why do we pat them dry?
Yeah.
Because we want them to get a nice sear and brown on them.
That's with all meat, isn't it?
With all
Anytime
meat,
you want
yeah.
a brown, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't worry too much about it because we're going to have our skillet on. Watching the cooking shows and from chefs is they don't put a lot of seasoning on them because you want the flavor of the meat, and these happen to be very flavorful. So oftentimes I'll just put some fresh ground pepper on it, and it does make a difference to grind your own pepper. So interestingly, for today, because Ruth asked for it, she likes rosemary, and so I stopped in my garden and got some rosemary, and I chopped some up, and we're going to sprinkle some on here, put it all around. So Ruth, the rosemary's for you.
Thank you. I love rosemary.
Okay, so here's a couple other secret ingredients for red meat
Okay.
that I've learned from restaurants. Number one, ground coffee.
Now what do you do
Okay.
with that?
Sprinkle it on.
Really?
And or the other ingredient that no one ever thinks about is cocoa powder.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And
My
I'll tell
goodness,
you,
David.
you don't taste coffee and you won't taste coffee, but he goes, I'd love to do that and not tell people, go, wow, these taste delicious. So there's a couple of different things you never even thought of, right?
So what are you going to use today?
I'm not going to use anything because I want to just talk about, let's let the meat stand
Just-
out
okay.
with a little rosemary.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but I thought that'd be a nice little addition for you here. So now, I think we're ready to cook. Okay, Ruth, here's our lamb chops. They're ready to go in. And another tip I learned from reading one of my, Thomas Keller from the French Laundry, who's one of the best chefs in America.
Okay.
He doesn't use olive oil or butter. He
Okay.
uses all canola
Oh,
oil.
the canola. That's what I use. I
And
use canola.
The
yeah.
two things about canola is,
Okay.
as he said, is number one, it doesn't have any flavor.
Okay.
So you let your meat come out. And secondly, it has a higher smoking content, so we won't set off the fire alarms.
Oh, good.
Okay, so if you can zoom in here a little bit, you'll see that it's just starting to sizzle in here. So that says we want it to be hotter than you normally set, because we want to get a nice brown sear. So, and we're going to lay them down. So it's a really hot skillet, and I'm going to watch my timer. It'll only take about 3 or 4 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, to get a nice brown sear on it. And please also note that I use tongs. Learned this from some people too. If you use a fork,
Oh, yeah, that's a no-no.
you pierce the meat, and then the juices come out. We don't want to lose any juice from these things whatsoever. So now we just have to wait a couple minutes and get a nice golden brown on them.
Wonderful.
Okay? It's been 3 minutes now, and literally it's been just 3 minutes. And let's see how they look. Look at that.
Gorgeous.
Huh?
Absolutely beautiful.
Okay. Now I should say that you can cook this in any pan you've got. And Ruth, I know this is your favorite for
That's
being
because
alone,
single serve. That's
and I love it. However, I just bought this a couple months ago at Walmart because of the high sides. But now, as I learned from many chefs, this is really high heat. And we want these things to be tender and cook clear through. So we're now going to put this whole thing in a 350-degree oven. And in about 7 minutes,
okay.
so we're going to test it. It'll be 150 degrees. And I know from cooking, 150 degrees is just between medium and medium rare.
Okay.
And it's how Margie likes them.
Yeah, that's the way
So
I like them too.
I can ask you how you like them at my house, but you're going to get them as Margie
I know,
likes them.
that's fine. I like it that way too. So,
So at any rate, we now have about 7 minutes, and to let them cook in a 350-degree oven, as we learned, so that they have an even temperature.
okay.
All right? So
Okay.
we'll just wait a few
So
minutes.
we'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, Ruth is ready to have her lamb chops here.
Absolutely,
And what I've done here, which I usually do, is prepare the vegetables and the starch ahead of time. So thanks to Ruth, we have some nice fresh couscous with peas. So we're going to put some of that on the plate here for Ruth. Okay, and thanks to our good friends at the club, I borrowed some veggies and some potatoes just to show a couple of
okay.
things. But once again, we can just microwave these just before we serve, and it's maybe not quite as good as fresh,
Oh,
but that
it's
way you
still
can
good.
enjoy your guests, and
That's
everything's
right.
ready before they
That's
come.
the hardest part of entertaining, really.
Right, it is.
The timing, yeah.
And so that's the nice thing about lamb chops. You can let them sit for up to an hour.
Right.
You really can, and it won't make any difference. And since I know you like
Oh, yes.
your mint jelly,
Absolutely.
we have to put a lot on
that goes with lamb.
yep. So, Ruth, there are our lamb chops.
Aren't they beautiful? Mm.
Yep. And here's our lamb chops. And so we want to plate one here and one here. And I don't make a sauce for my lamb chops because I just like the lamb to be just the flavor of the lamb. But don't let the juices get away from you. Just A little bit of juice in each one of them. Now, to finish it off,
Okay.
we cooked with rosemary, so I always like to put a garnish on. So we'll put a little rosemary here, and I like to put a little parsley on my potatoes. So we'll do that, and then I want to just sprinkle a little rosemary around each plate, you know, just to decorate
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
So, and I don't have another rosemary sprig, so we'll just put a parsley here for you.
Okay.
How's that?
All right. You always say that your wife is the one that does the decorating, but you do a fine job by yourself. She's taught you well.
She's teaching me, yes.
She taught you
So,
well.
anyway, Ruth,
Yeah.
there you have it.
Okay.
A nice little,
Then I cut into one.
as soon as you do, I can.
Okay. Look at that. That's perfect.
There you go, huh? Ruth is happy today. And there you have it. The only other thing I might suggest to you is those that don't have to worry about salt. I brought some sea salt from France, and there's lots of different salts with different flavors, and so I sometimes like to sprinkle a little of my salt on here, and I should have offered it to you first, Ruth, too. And interestingly, with these nice salts, you don't want to, you want the flavors at the end, so you don't want to cook them too soon. So now I'm going to try mine, Ruth. And once again, 150 degrees internal temperature. Bring them out of the oven, cover it for at least 10 to 15 minutes, and look
Let
at
it
all the
rest.
nice juice in there. Some people like it a little rare, go with 140.
Okay.
But Margie likes it just this way.
Isn't that good?
And so do I.
Yep.
So anyway, there you have it, Ruth.
Okay, thank you
That's
very
what's
much.
cooking.
And I do want to give you a little hint to the audience. Publix is now having some beautiful lamb chops. I always went to Costco. I don't have my card anymore. But Publix is having some beautiful lamb chops. Not all the time, but so you can get them there without going to Costco.
There you go. Well, and I go to Costco, and like I said, I know you have the vacuum pack sealer.
yeah,
So what I've been doing, because I know you have to buy 8 at a time, is I wrap them in foil or saran wrap.
Okay.
Then put them in a baggie in the freezer, and they'll keep for at least a month and a half
That's
that
right.
way.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about keeping them too long because you won't.
And
You'll
it
be
won't
cooking
last
them.
that long.
And you gave a tip too. Sometimes you cut the meat off
Like a shish
and
kebab.
make a shish kebab out of it. So there you have it. That's what's cooking at Shell Point today. Bye now.
Bye-bye.